Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the live interviews. I'm really excited about our guest today. And of course, we're excited to have you back. We already have a few watching. We're going to wait for a few more to join. But welcome, everybody, to the live interviews. So as we wait for everybody to get settled in and join us today, I did want to remind everyone where the live interviews came from. The live interviews were born out of the NF Hope concert, which is something that my wife Melody and I created back in 2011. Is that right? 2011. We are here at our 10th year this year. It's amazing. But of course, because of COVID, our New York and Chicago concerts earlier this year had to be canceled. So we created the very first virtual NF Hope concert. And because there are so many people out there who are generous with their talents, we decided to continue inviting guests on, these incredibly talented performers from across the country, to join us in a weekly live interview session called the Live Interviews. That's what you're with us today watching. It's every Thursday at 11:30, we bring on a new guest. And I'm actually very excited about next week's guest. If anybody is a fan of the Monkees, Mickey Dolenz himself will be joining us next week. I'll get a chance to talk with him about what it was like to be in the Monkees, what he's been up to, how he's managed to keep himself busy during COVID and lockdown in Los Angeles, and of course play a great old Monkees tune that I'm sure you're all going to recognize. But today we're going to focus on our guest. Before we do, I did want to remind everybody why this exists. The NF Hope concert was created because of our daughter. She was born with a neurological disorder called neurofibromatosis, or NF. And for those of you who don't know what it is a neurological disorder that's characterized by tumors that can grow in any nerve in the body at any time. Well, I could go into a whole show's worth of discussions about what happens to people that have NF. I will tell you, for me, a father, the most important one is that there's no cure. That is why the NF Hope concert exists. That is why my wife and I created them. And we are looking forward this year to continuing the NF Hope concerts with Las Vegas's 10th annual NF Hope concert. That's right, we are going to have the 10th concert. It's October 18th. We will have more information on our website as well as our Facebook page coming up soon. If you want to get involved and help out, please visit nfnetwork.org, where you can help us reach, get this, our $1 million goal this year. That's right. Hopefully by the end of the concert, we will break the $1 million raise mark. And you can help us right now by getting involved on that website and making sure that you say that it's for the NF Hope concert. All right. So here in our house, we've faced a number of challenges as a result of NF. But there was a quote that I heard a while back that really stuck with me. And the quote is, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. Life is about learning, I butchered that. I'm going to start over because it's such a great quote. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. It's something that we celebrate as a motto in our house. And it is certainly something that our guest today lives every day. Elly Brown was just beginning to hit her stride as a performer when she was faced with a diagnosis of cancer. And that journey sort of started a discovery of her and acceptance for what's happening. And she has certainly learned to celebrate every moment where she gets to dance in the rain. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elly Brown.
Hey,
hi, Elly.
Jeff. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to have you on.
No, the pleasure is all mine. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, it was a joy. When lining up guests, we had been talking about getting you involved for a while, and we're actually, for those people who are interested in joining us on October 18th, Elly has also agreed to be a part of that event. So again, very honored. But performer to performer, I think we all sort of get our start at an early age. I was interested in classical music at an early age, but you fell in love with theater and singing at an early age. How old were you when you sort of first discovered this love?
Oh gosh, my mom and dad used to play music at home all the time, and their tastes ranged from oldies and rock and roll to musicals to everything in between. And I remember my mom had so many different musical theater albums. I loved them. And of course, we were one of those families who listened to Les Mis and Phantom on a cassette player. And we had a wonderful teacher at my school who ended up absolutely being a mentor to me and my brothers and my sister. He really introduced us to this world of music and taught us so many things. And under his sort of mentorship, all of us discovered that we had this love that we wanted to sort of groom. And for both my brothers and sister and I, all of them, it all sort of happened in different ways for each of us. But I just feel so blessed that we had him. His name was Ted Richardson. And he was a huge figure in my life.
That's wonderful. Is he still inspiring other kids to sort of follow that passion?
I'm sad to say that he has passed away just a few years ago, but he was a wonderful man.
Well, it sounds like he definitely left his mark.
He did.
So your journey performing sort of landed you in Vegas. What brought you, where did you grow up and how did you end up in Las Vegas?
I grew up in Pennsylvania and I went to school out there near Philadelphia. And I knew I wanted to move to New York City and live there. And I lived there for about a year after I graduated from university, and I decided I wanted to work on cruise ships. And I did that for a while. I'm going to say off and on for like 6 years or something like that. And by the end of it, I had met so many other performers from Las Vegas. I thought, gosh, I could move back to New York City, but everybody seems to love Las Vegas. You know, maybe I should give that a try. So yeah, I came out here and I decided to visit. And during that first week, I ended up getting an apartment and buying an old car and just starting my life here.
And you had quite a life. I mean, you were performing all over the place. You were in Jubilee.
Yeah, shortly after I moved out here, I auditioned for Jubilee, and I was there for 2 years, and it was a great experience. Yeah. Amazing.
So in 2017, your dentist discovered a spot on your tongue, and a biopsy of that spot discovered that it was cancer. When you first heard that, what was your thought?
Well, let's back up because actually I had the spot on my tongue since high school.
Okay.
And my dentist then wasn't able to diagnose it. But around 2004, I had a different dentist tell me that it was lichen planus. Okay. And that's an autoimmune disorder where it's for some people, it affects their skin. For me, it was my tongue. Mm-hmm. And basically the cells attack themselves. So even though you're otherwise healthy, your body just sort of starts beating you up. And in my case, it was just in one place on the left side of my tongue. And that had grown consistently worse throughout my adulthood. And I had dentists and oral surgeons say, we'll keep an eye on it. There's not a whole lot we can do except avoiding spicy food. So, yeah. So then when in 2017, I had that oral surgeon who felt the area and said, oh, there's a lump here now, like an actual lump. And so it wasn't a surprise, but it was. I mean, it's never easy to hear someone tell you that you had cancer, even if you think like there was a chance that it could happen. But yeah, it was pretty intense.
Is it common for lichen planus to become cancerous? Is that a cause of it, or do they think that it was unrelated?
No one will say your lichen planus caused your cancer. No one says that.
Right.
But I had it for 20 years, and it was the worst deformity of the tongue that my oral surgeon had ever seen. And lichen planus in itself is not uncommon, but certainly the level to which mine had grown and eroded away the tissue was very uncommon.
Wow. So I know as performers, we often get focused on, getting back to stage when we get hurt, when we fall, whatever it may be. As you were sort of processing your fear of and learning, just hearing that word cancer is enough to sort of get minds going. What was your focus? Was it kind of that performer focus to get back on stage? Or?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The first surgery I had was basically a lumpectomy, and they did that right here in Las Vegas. And after that surgery, I just wanted to go back to my old life. And I had a little bit of a speech impediment, but it wasn't anything like it is now. And I did it. I had my surgery in March, and I think that April or May, I was back on a cruise ship with my a cappella group, the Sound Collage, and I was back on stage, and I was very happy. And over the summer and into the autumn, my pain grew more intense. My doctors told me I did not have cancer because I had had a clear scan, and come to find out that there may have been some mistake or some scans, which I'm not really sure, but I definitely had a recurrence. And by the time they found it, it was stage 3, and I was very, very lucky to be able to get the surgery that I had in May of 2018, where they took the tissue and the bones from my leg to rebuild my tongue and jaw. And that completely changed my ideas about what it would mean to be a performer. Absolutely. Very long recovery. And as I was recovering, just a sense of knowing that I didn't think it was over. I never thought, well, that's it, I'm done. Right. It was never like that. But I knew that it would be very different, and it was just a matter of figuring out what that meant.
Right. As you were going through this recovery, is that where your mental space was, or did it take a while to get there?
It definitely took a while. Oral cancer is a beast, and the things that happen to your body when you have a surgery like that can 100% make you want to throw in the towel any day of the week. You sound different. You can't necessarily eat normally right away. I had a feeding tube for 5 months. And, just being on a feeding tube makes a lot of people want to quit because after radiation too, I had the surgery and the radiation treatment, and that just makes your tissue very sensitive to everything. So relearning to swallow, all of that, it was an uphill battle. And it was about 9 months before I picked up a camera and even entertained the idea of singing into it or, maybe making a video. Because until that time, I had a lot of lymphedema. My face was giant. I had a hard time walking. I had to kind of physical therapy my way back into being able to drive and walk. And speaking of course is the toughest thing, that first phone call when you're trying to explain to someone that you just want to mail a piece of mail at a kiosk and no one knows that you're saying kiosk. It's tough. Even now I have some of those moments, but it's a lot better now than it was.
So you're mourning this, this physical challenges that you're facing and your body sort of not reacting, but there's also sort of that performer again, that's mourning what this means to their career. At what point did that sort of transition to finding strength about to take the next step, to sort of just take the path and see where it takes you?
It's not a thing that happens overnight. For me, the 9 months of just getting my body to a place where I could even imagine that maybe that could be a thing. And like I said, there was never a day when I thought, I'll never be a performer again. That part is over. I never thought that. I had to take it a moment at a time because there were smaller mountains to climb before I could get to that next part. Right. But slowly I did start seeing there was space for my differences, and not only space for me to just exist, but maybe even space for it to be important somehow. And once I got out of my own way and stopped thinking about how other people were going to think of me and react to me, there was this other thing, this bigger thing that I could possibly serve. And when you put the focus on, wait a minute, you're not the only person this is happening to. You know what I mean? It might feel like you're the only person in the world going through this, but there's so many others. And when you connect to them and, start to approach making content from the point of view of, how can I show other people that this can work? whether it's making a video talking about why it's okay to have a speech impediment and how to be okay with that, or whether it's just making entertaining comedic videos and saying, look, here's a girl who obviously has been through something. She's doing this thing. Maybe I should do a thing too. And living life as normally as possible and normalizing, making it okay to have physical challenges. And I think that's the thing that Hollywood is struggling with right now. And there's more awareness about it now than ever before, which I'm so pleased to see. But most of us have stuff going on.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, so you kind of, you were already finding like just your voice, literally, physically your voice and what it meant to singing and speaking and all of this. But that's when you discovered this, what you said, this sort of new voice. And you've kind of become a voice for people who are going through challenges like this. And not only did they come out to listen, but they kind of came out in droves. I mean, a huge number is looking at these videos. Were you surprised by that kind of reaction? Or did you?
Yes, but I think it was because my surprise came from this egotistical place of like, why would people want to watch this? Why would people want to see any of this, But when I started to think about it in terms of them and doing it for them and what they're receiving and how it could change their lives, then it's not about me. It isn't about me and what I'm doing or what I have to offer. It's just doing something in service to a bigger idea than ourselves. And I think so many times in life, even with the pandemic is a perfect example. We're so frustrated by these things, and even naming that as an example is tough because connecting with people is so tough during the pandemic. It's almost all virtual and that sort of thing. But there are other people going through this, and connecting and feeling that sense of community is the most and the best thing that we can do to sort of feel like we're using it for good and using it to learn and to do something bigger than just what we can do by ourselves.
Yeah, that's. I think that's kind of the big takeaway is that discovery is realizing that you can take a challenge and use it to inspire somebody else, use it to help them get over something and maybe prevent them from going through some of the challenges that you faced. I think for us, that's why we created the NF Hope concert, although I don't think we realized the effect that it would have on the NF community. But it is a wonderful side effect of this journey. So
I've had people reach out to me who also have experienced NF to talk about how it affected their family and so what you're doing is so valuable and so meaningful. And, we can never really know how many people it's touching because only a certain amount will take the time to reach out. Right. But when you think about that full picture and all the people who see what you're doing, it's so meaningful.
Well, I coming from you, that is an enormous compliment. Now, speaking of inspiring, you early on in sort of coming back onto social media and presenting yourself on video, you decided you're going to sing. And I think, if I remember right, that first song that you chose to sing is the one that you'd like to sing for us today. And I think it for me, watching that video, from the perspective of a father of somebody who's got their own challenges, was just one of the most beautiful and wonderful things that I've ever seen. Because it's about facing fears and not worrying what people see. And the fact that the beautiful voice comes out just makes it all the more touching. But I am going to let you take the stage and we'll continue our conversation after you wow us. No pressure.
I do love this song, and when I think about growing up and learning to sing, I mean, essentially I learned to sing from my parents and in school, but I also learned to sing in church. And all I can do, even with what's going on with my voice and the damage and the radiation, is just give it to God. Let him take the reins on this one. And And how it comes out is hopefully just something that can be used for good. So. Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the mighty thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, you got me all verklempt.
Thanks for letting me sing. I love to sing. It's so much fun to sing. I still love to sing, in spite of it all. And, I've been able to kind of come to a place where even though I'm not rocking on stage with a group and doing that, I'm still so excited about being able to use my voice. I'm so fortunate to get to do that.
Well, it's a beautiful voice to share, not only because of the way it sounds, but because of what you have to say. And I think the strength that comes through when you sing is the same strength that has sort of gotten you through this. And I'm curious, I know last year you were, because you haven't faced enough, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm curious, after everything you've gone through, do you feel like you were just better equipped to face this with strength and a courage that you probably wouldn't have had before this?
Maybe, because by the time I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was such a weird thing. I got the diagnosis the day that I went to see my dad in the funeral home after he had passed away. And I came out of the... Sorry.
Okay.
I came out and went to my car to go run some errands. And I had this message on my phone from my doctor, and I knew what it was. And so I called her back and I said, look, I know I'm on a trip. I know you want me to come in, but I know what you're going to say. So let's just talk about it. And she was like, all right. And, and she gave me the news. And it was so, like, you can't make this stuff up. It was so crazy that it happens that day that I just went right into, this is the Holy Spirit doing a thing. Like, just whatever you're thinking and feeling right now, stop. Listen. Pay attention. Because this is important and you need to make sure you're on the right track and hearing what is being said to you. And so, in a way, the fact that it happened when I was with my family was a gift. And it really sort of pointed me in the direction of start looking for the gifts in this. Start figuring out how you can use this for good. Because to me, Jeff, even if people don't feel a connection or a spiritual connection, or they don't have a relationship with God or Jesus, to me, you can stop and assign meaning to anything that's happened to you in the moment if you just stop and think about it. Why has this happened to me? And we find ourselves saying that to ourselves, and it's like, well, decide. decide why it did. And whether those messages are coming from the Holy Spirit, like I strongly believe they were from me, or if it's you sitting in a room in peace, deciding for yourself what you're going to do with this journey, take the reins and use it for good.
It's amazing. And I kind of think it sort of showed up at the end of the year. I mean, you got through that. How are you doing, by the way, more importantly? Wonderful.
I had surgery about a month ago where they wanted to build a Z-flap at the base of my tongue, because usually oral cancer patients have the side of their tongue tethered right into their cheek very tightly, which is one of the things that makes it so difficult to speak. So my surgeon took some of my scar tissue here, actually, and used it at the base of my tongue to make it flappier. And I'm so pleased with it. I'm so happy. I need to do a bit more speech therapy, but the scar itself is a bit less prominent, and I have more motion at the base of my tongue, or at the tip of my tongue there. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm doing really well, and I'm starting to think about things like, cosmetic things, like how that's been reshaped and that sort of thing, which is such a luxury. I'm just so fortunate. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We're glad that you have that luxury. And again, through all of this, I think you got to the end of last year, and I don't know if everybody knows, but last year the producers of Broadway's Chicago put out a search for the new Roxie Hart, and people submitted videos from all across the country. And you kind of jumped into that with an amazing video, by the way. I think I'm one of, I think, 3.5 million views on that video at this point. I mean, when you jumped into that, was it kind of more for yourself, or were you surprised that many people wanted to see this and were touched by it?
Yeah. So I didn't know about that contest until the weekend before the videos were due. And I was sitting in bed drinking coffee one morning, and I saw a friend of mine had done this audition video for this contest. And I'm looking at this thing, and it was like, social media contest, search for the new Roxie Hart, make a video, hold my beer. I called one of my friends who's a choreographer dancer. I said, can you come to my house today? And he said, yep. And he showed up. And he taught me the combination, and I spent the bulk of the weekend learning the combination because I'm not a great dancer. And he worked really hard with me, and I just busted my butt for 2 days, and I made the video. And I wanted to do it from the point of view of a disabled person, because I feel like so many people have those physical challenges, and they stop doing things like that. And, but I didn't know if I'd be able to pull it off, but I just had this thought, like, gosh, if I could, how wonderful would that be for a kid in a wheelchair who's in physical therapy to be able to see something like that? Like, I was in a wheelchair for a month, do this. So I just did it. And I obviously, like, the performer and the ego inside of me is like, oh my God, this is a horrible video. Everyone saw it, oh my God. But no, it was important. It was important. And that was just another instance where I had to get the heck out of the way and do something that was bigger than how I felt about how I looked dancing or how I felt about singing with a speech impediment. So I hope that means that someone will try something risky or exciting. And I hope it means that people will go get their scans and talk to their doctors when something's wrong. So that's, I'm curious,
you've this is just another example of an amazing thing you've done. And I know if people want to see more of you, they can go on your Facebook, to the Elly Brown show. They learn more about you there. Even just search Elly Brown, you pop up a few times and get to know you in all sorts of different ways. But I mean, what now that you're sort of here, it's 2020. I mean, we're obviously working through plenty in this country. What are your dreams now? Like, what comes next in your journey? Or have you decided to just stop thinking about what that might be?
I'm so fortunate, Jeff. About, I don't know, probably 8 months ago, I posted a thing in my office bulletin board. It's kind of my vision board. And on it, I wrote, I want to be cast in my own, in a show. And I want to make X amount of money. And I want to be able to be an actor that has a disability and be fine the way I am and just have big numbers and show people that this is, possible. I wanted to expand, basically. I wanted to scale up the amount of people that was watching me be me just the way I am. And I didn't even realize that it had come true with the Elly Brown show on Facebook until my partner, Vicky, my fiance, pointed it out to me. I had done an interview for Desert Companion where I had said, I would really like to be in the show where I can just show people that I'm me and I'm doing my thing. And he read it and he was like, you do that. You're doing that right now. And I was like, I am doing that. And I'm the producer and I'm the writer. I have a dream life. And I ran into my office and I looked at the amount of money that I had written down and I'm getting that this year. So talk about asking for something and not knowing really what you'd be given and not even realizing that you've been given it. But I got everything I wanted that I had written down. And so I 100% believe in the power of naming it and just working every day towards it and knowing that something would happen. And I'm honestly, Jeff, I'm living my dream right now. I'm living it right now. And I it's not that I never think about the future, but I'm certainly in such a wonderful place right now where I'm able to create and collaborate with amazing entertainers. And the only thing that could make it better, I don't even know.
Sounds like something for a note on your vision board. So we've gotten to the end of this, not the end, the next step in this journey. And looking back, so if you were sitting in front of somebody who was at the very beginning of this journey, who was figuring out what to do and how this changes their life and how they're going to get from where they are to where you are, what advice would you give them?
Baby steps. Don't worry about the hows and the wheres and the whys. Just every day know that you are walking towards your destination. For me, that meant first learning how to walk, and then learning how to eat, and then learning how to talk, and then picking up a camera. But it's different for everyone. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that thing that you know that you want. I never changed my vision about being a performer. That never went away. There was never a moment when I thought to myself, well, I guess being a performer is done. Never. I had the Holy Spirit over my shoulder every day saying, don't worry about that right now, do this thing. And then when you do this thing, do this thing. And just make your way. Just keep on trusting, girl. You'll get there. And you do. You absolutely do. But keep your vision clear. Never let go of your vision.
I love that message, and I think it's a perfect place to end. If anybody wants to learn more about Elly, or take a look at her pages, or even check out the video of her audition for the search for the new Roxie Hart, I'm going to put all of that in the description, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And feel free to go explore and get to know her, because she is truly an inspiration. She inspires you, and certainly inspire me, Elly.
Likewise, it's such an honor to be here with you, Jeff. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thank you. And thanks for being a part of today. Everybody, don't forget, if you want to check out next week, we do have the incredible Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees on and we'll have a list of some other upcoming artists. A little challenging during COVID, but we're getting some amazing ones lined up. And of course, we'll see everybody on October 18th. Elly, thank you again so much. And everybody, thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you next week.